Somebody told me you wanted DLC. Let me pass down some wisdom from my father. So mean. Today we will go over getting the infinity wing, infinite infinity wings, and infinitely pushing our infinite infinity wings. Unfortunately, all the wings in the game barely last a minute. This makes them not too fun to build with, as the build never lasts long enough to enjoy. But today we will fix that and help you get a wing that will never expire. If you've seen the prior Infinity Wing video, then you know the method for 1.2.1 was pretty difficult. Some of you managed to still get the wing, which is really impressive. Thanks to some new glitches found on the current version, getting the wing is much easier than before. The method we are working on today works on 1.2 and 1.2.1. For earlier versions, check out my previous video. You can get this wing at any point in the game as long as you've completed the Great Sky Island. The difficulty in completing this task, I would say, is a 3. There's really only one glitch you need to perform, but there are a couple more glitches working behind the scenes. The difficulty comes from the timing and the glitch we'll be utilizing. Fortunately, we only need to be successful one time, and it's really easy to try again. Afterwards, I'll show you an easy way to dupe the wing that doesn't require any complicated glitches. And at the end of the video, I'll show you a way to fly through the sky powered only by Ultra Hand. We can't forget to thank all those that invested a lot of their time to make this possible. You can show your appreciation in the comments, and I'll flood them with all the screenshots. To start, we need to grab a few things. You'll need a couple of sticks, a shield, hover stones, a stabilizer, a bow and some arrows, auto build, one memory, either a lot of your battery expanded or some small extra batteries. And we need to clear the 3 camps on top of Eventide Island. I like to go to this shrine and jump down here to get my sticks. You'll only need a few in case you mess up. Once you've collected those items, we can get started. Our first stop is the Damazuan Shrine. Once we arrive, we need to make our way over to this red carpet. There is a chance some gloom hands will spawn here. You'll either need to defeat them or get them to chase you off the cliff until they despawn. Now that we're on the red carpet, this is where we're going to be doing our one and only glitch. Fuse Storage Fuse Entanglement, or FSFE for short. The goal of this is to switch our shield in the middle of our attempt to fuse. This way, the game thinks that we have an object attached to our shield while we still have access to control that object in the game world. In order to switch shields mid-fuse, we need something to interrupt that fuse attempt. In this case, we will use Fuse Storage. Fuse Storage, in a general sense, is creating a state where we pause the fuse action right after we attempt to fuse. This allows us to complete the fuse later. And to create this pause, we will use culling. Culling is something the game does on its own to temporarily remove objects, NPCs, or environments from the game, if they are neither in Link's line of sight or about to be. We can use this mechanic to have the object we are attempting to fuse disappear in the time between the attempt to fuse and completing it, which is more than enough time to change the shield and complete the fuse entanglement. To do this, you will equip a stick and a shield with nothing fused to it. Stand straight past this point on the carpet and drop the stick. Now use Ultra Hand to place this stick against the wall. Before we attempt fuse storage, let go of the stick and back up on the carpet. You should see the stick disappear. This is a pretty useful culling area for what we want to accomplish. While the borders of this culling area are much bigger, we will isolate the part that is important to us, using the carpet as a reference. This part of the carpet will make the stick visible again, and backing up to this part of the carpet makes the stick invisible, or culls the stick. Backing up to make the stick disappear is a good test to see if we've got everything in order. Now for the fuse storage. Walk back into the visible space and Ultra Hand the stick. Back up into the culled space and use up on the D-pad to push the stick up against the wall. While Ultra Hand is active, you're going to hold L to get to the ability menu, and then select Fuse. At this point, the object should be the target of your fuse. You will then press minus and watch one memory. You can skip this memory, just don't exit the menu. Now this is the hardest part of the glitch, so just wait right here while I explain what happens next. We need to press B to close the menu, and very shortly after the menu closes, we need to press ZL to attempt to fuse to our shield. The timing window to be successful is pretty small, but there's no need to get discouraged if you don't get it on the first try. I don't get it on the first try like half the time. And we are pretty lucky that we only need to be successful one time. Before we make an attempt, there are some things to look out for to let us know if we were most likely successful. I say most likely because even if you see these things, we won't know if we were successful until we complete the next steps. Who is that? Normally, when playing the game, if you press ZL, the camera will center. But when you fuse an object to a shield by pressing ZL, the camera will not center. So after you close the menu and press ZL, if you see fuse still active, you were probably too fast. And if you see the camera center, you were probably too slow. If you see fuse still active and the camera center, you were a frame too fast. But if the camera does not center and fuse is not active, you can move on to the next steps. Here's a little rhythm game to help you increase your chance of success. After you've taken your shot, we're stuck with a little road bump. We don't get a lot of information as to whether or not we were successful until we complete the next steps. But there aren't many steps left and none involve any timing. So we're going to press minus and we're going to watch 2 memories. We can skip them each time. We're going to press plus and go to our shield menu. We're going to unequip our shield and then re-equip our shield. And then press B to leave the menu. Now you should have one of 2 outcomes. The stick will fall down from your back, which means you were successful. Or nothing will happen, which means we most likely failed the timing part of the glitch. Let's go over some troubleshooting in case you ran into other issues along the way. If the stick disappears after putting it up against the wall and selecting fuse, at some point you had to have let go of the stick with Ultra Hand before selecting fuse, or you turned your back to the stick while having fuse selected, or you're too far back on the carpet. After the timing part, if the stick fuses to your shield, then you were either not far enough back on the carpet, or the stick was not all the way against the wall. To quickly set up and try again, walk forward, Ultra Hand the stick, back up, push the stick against the wall, hold L, and switch to fuse. You should see fuse targeting the stick. If so, pause and watch 1 memory. Now you're set back up to try the timing again. I would recommend returning to the timing section. For a faster setup, you can just select fuse and slowly walk towards the object until it appears, then quickly walk away and turn around. If you've been successful in your FSFE attempt, congrats. We are done with the glitches and we can move on to the next steps. I do want to mention, for all those that are on the current patch, FSFE is an extremely potent glitch. It might be a little harder to set up than the older patch's fuse entanglement, but it has the potential to give you access to a ton of other extremely fun glitches on the current patch. In the description, I'll link some more videos I suggest you get into if you want to dive a little deeper. Now, after you've been successful with FSFE, you need to make sure you don't have any weapon equipped, and after you've checked that, you can pick up the stick. At this point, you should never unequip your shield or your stick, because that will break the fuse entanglement. Now we can head to the minigame. You're safe to warp to either the shrine or the light route on the island. The light route is preferred because you can just ascend up to the minigame. Before we start the minigame, we need to head down to this little skull. We want to grab this board and place it on the ground. We want to drop the stick weapon and glue it to the board on the side like this. Now we have this build in our auto build history. You can favorite it if you want. Afterward, make sure you don't have any other weapon equipped and re-grab the stick. Now go to the start of the minigame. If you watched the previous video, then a lot of this is going to be the same as the first method. I recommend you watch this part completely before re-watching to follow step by step, so you get the general idea of the goal. We're going to start the minigame. As soon as the minigame starts, you're going to recall the wing that you are standing on. Then you will shoot a hoverstone in front of the wing. Don't shoot too low because we want the hoverstone to be on. Now we will grab the hoverstone with Ultra Hand and just wait for recall to time out on its own. Once the wing starts, we want to keep the hoverstone just a bit ahead of us, and we're going to head over to this chasm. We want to stay as low as we can, but we need to make sure that we get over these trees before getting too low. To stop the wing, all we need to do is attach the hoverstone. The goal is to stop the wing right before we fly over the chasm. making sure the front of the wing is facing in the direction of the chasm. We also want to make sure that we aren't too low, because there is a barrier around the chasm that will end the minigame. At this point, you can shoot another hoverstone behind you and attach it to the back of the wing. Before moving on, evaluate your position relative to the chasm, making sure that it is in front of you and you aren't too low. You can use rockets and recall to attempt to make any small adjustments to get into position. If you're struggling to get the wing into a good position, don't hesitate to just jump off the wing and start the minigame again. If you are okay with the position, we can move on. We kinda want the wing to be level with the ground. You can use a stabilizer to slowly get the wing flat. This is so that when we drop the stick, it doesn't roll to the ground. But if it does anyways, you can just recall it and glue it to the wing. We really just want to avoid it falling down the chasm. Break off the hoverstone in the front and move it off to the side. If you're concerned about battery life, you can add a small battery to the hoverstone in the back, but make sure you attach it to the hoverstone. Now, our goal is to drop the stick again and use auto build to create the board and stick combo, making sure the stick gets attached to the board. Now attach the auto built board at an angle to the tip of the wing, making sure that the stick is on one of the two sides. And now it's time to drop. Normally, when you get too far from the minigame wing, a dialog box will pop up asking you, what are you doing? We're going to use that dialog to our advantage by walking up the board we placed on the wing. At this point, we want to make sure that the only thing that is attached to the wing is the board and stick combo and the hoverstone in the back. Now, we're going to walk to the tip of the wing. You could even walk slightly onto the board if you wanted to. Grab the hoverstone on the back with Ultra Hand, and to make this as smooth as possible, we're going to shake the controller or the right stick to break the hoverstone off. But as soon as we start to shake, we're going to start holding down our L button. Our goal is to have the ability menu pop up as soon as the hoverstone breaks off. If it doesn't break off before the L menu pops up, just try again. And if you want to practice this before you commit, you can always attach another hoverstone to the side and just practice on that one. Just be mindful of your battery. While the ability menu is open, just take a brief moment as the next steps need to happen quickly. You're going to select recall and recall the wing. As soon as the wing is recalled, you're going to walk up the board as fast as you can, without running. If done correctly, the dialog box asking you what you are doing will pop up and the recall will break, and you and the wing will start falling down the chasm. If the dialog box says you can't leave this area, then that means at some point you entered the barrier protecting the chasm. You either set up too low, or you took too long to recall the wing, allowing Link to hit the barrier. If you get the dialog box that says, what are you doing, but Link and the wing do not move at all, then there could be a few issues. What is most likely the issue is that the fuse entanglement was broken. This can happen if you changed your weapon or your shield, or you picked up the stick while you had a weapon already in your hand, or you loaded a save. If you are sure none of these things happen, you can go to your shield menu and see if the game still thinks the stick is on the shield, but visually your shield has nothing on it. In most cases, this means the fuse entanglement is still active. Another reason why you may not have moved after getting the what are you doing dialogue is that you didn't remove either the hoverstone or some other random Zonai device like the stabilizer or the battery. The only thing that should be attached to the wing before walking onto the board is the board and the stick. If you unfortunately miss this attempt, you can attempt to recover the stick and try again. It might still be on the beach, but it's most likely falling down the chasm. Unfortunately, it's highly likely you will not find the stick, as it will have fallen out of bounds and is all the way at the true bottom of the world. You'll need to go back and set up FSFE again, but you know all the steps, so I'm sure it won't take you too long. Once you are falling down the chasm, do not press any buttons. Just wait till both you and the wing make it all the way down. There is a high chance you will fall off the wing, but that's okay. Just wait till you reach the bottom and then wait another 30 seconds to give the wing time to descend. If you fell off, you probably won't see the wing land, but as long as you wait, you'll be fine. After waiting, you can continue the dialogue. The game will try to pull you back to the minigame, but it will fail. And then when it asks you if you want to try again, you will tell them no. After that, you can look for the wing. If you don't see it, try to gain some height and use recall to find its trail. And once you find the wing, let's wait before you fuse it. We are going to do some things in a very specific order. That way we can use our fuse entangled stick to dupe the wing at least one time, and this will make it easier to dupe 2 wings later. But if for some reason you are unable to do this dupe, don't worry, we can still dupe later. Grab the board with Ultra Hand and break it off. Change weapons to an unfused weapon. Fuse the wing to the weapon. Drop the weapon you just fused to. Pick up the fuse entangled stick. Change shields. This will remove the stick from your hand. Then pick up the wing weapon. If you did this in the correct order, you should be able to open your weapon menu and see that you have 2 wings. This ultimately breaks our fuse entanglement, but at this point, we're good to go. If this video has been helpful, please consider subscribing. And if you're interested, check out this pin I made for the channel. Link is in the description. Let's move on to the extremely easy dupe, which will allow us to have an endless supply of infinity wings. First, we're going to meet up with Pelison and have him remove one of the wings and then fuse that wing to a shield. If you missed this dupe from a moment ago, you can just skip this step. And now we need to look at the weapon and the shield that we have our wings fused to, and make sure that we have another weapon and another shield that are unfused. So if we have a wing fused to a tree branch, we need to make sure we have like a club or a spear or a different type of stick. We can't dupe to the same type of weapon or shield. Now in order to dupe, we will have to temporarily displace Link's soul from his body. Don't worry though, it's only for a brief moment and Link will be fine. Well, he'll be fine as long as you follow the steps correctly. Otherwise, Ganondorf gets mad and he might crash our game. So to be safe, let's save the game right here. We're going to be performing Moobe, or Mulberry's out-of-body experience. For some reason, the game stores Link's climbing coordinates in a place that's unaffected by saves or warps. And when you stop climbing, the last climbing coordinates are just sitting somewhere in the game's memory until you update them by climbing again. We can use this to force the game to send us to those coordinates temporarily by entering a climbing state after watching a memory. Watching memories advances the game by 1 frame, but we are still very limited on what we can do in that frame. In most cases, those frames can advance Link's animation, but it resists allowing movement in any direction. Since the memory resists Link's movement, in order to enter a climbing state while watching a memory, Link needs to be close enough to a climbable surface that all we need to do is to hold forward to enter the climb animation. Surfaces with a slope over Link's head works best. That way we can jump, pause, watch a memory while holding forward. This results in the game putting us at the last chords Link was climbing at temporarily. Why this happens is not 100% understood, but if I were to take a guess, I think it has something to do with the game's resistance in allowing Link to move in the frame after watching a memory. And when we enter the climbing animation, it refuses to update his climb coordinates until we are no longer paused, and inadvertently uses the last known climb coordinates instead. This isn't permanent though, as after you unpause, the game will correct it. And while you can't see Link's soul, you can watch the camera try to follow it back to his body. The game does, however, attempt to load the surroundings of the last climb coordinates, and this is what we're after. By doing this at the water temple with your last climbing coordinates at Lookout Landing, we overload the game by trying to get it to load Lookout Landing as if we just popped in. Normally the game does this gradually as we walk up, but if we just pop in, the game strains to load in everything. In that lag, we will just swap our weapons, and the game will struggle to understand what is supposed to be in our hands, effectively transferring a copy of that wing to the new weapon. This may sound complicated, but the steps are actually very easy. Make sure you have the wing weapon and the wing shield equipped. Warp to Lookout Landing, climb this wall, warp to this water temple shrine, though if you don't have this shrine, any shrine far away should work. And if it doesn't work, then get to the water temple shrine. Walk to this side of the shrine and hold ZL. While holding ZL, walk against the shrine until you are up against it, and then let go of ZL. Jump and press the minus button. The timing isn't that important, but make sure you don't press minus too fast or too slow. Now, watch a memory. While watching the memory, hold forward on the left analog stick, and while continuing to hold, skip the memory. After you are back in the menu, you can let go of the left analog stick. Now we will press R to check our map. You should see that Link is at Lookout Landing. If not, then you didn't hold forward before and after skipping the memory, or you just weren't close enough to the wall. If he is at Lookout Landing, then we've been successful. We're going to press plus, and then we're going to change our weapon to another weapon, making sure it's not the same type of weapon that you have the wing fused to. And if you do have a wing on your shield, change to another shield. Now Link should still look like he has a wing weapon and a wing shield equipped. We're going to press minus and watch another memory. No need to hold any directions this time. You can skip this memory as well. As cool as it would be to watch Link's soul travel back to his body, unfortunately it's highly likely to crash the game. So after the memory, we'll press plus, we will save our game, and then load the save we just made. Once loaded, you should see a copy of the wing is now on the new weapon and shield. If you didn't bring a winged shield, you can now head to Pelison and remove one from your weapon and fuse it to a shield and repeat the steps above. Now that you have a few wings, I suggest dropping a few off at your house and repeating this dupe whenever you need more wings. With all that out of the way, let's quickly go over a way to fly through the sky powered only by Ultra Hand. Normally when you attempt to push any object with another, it doesn't move very much. Breneko discovered that if you shoot a hover stone while in bullet time, that as long as you allow it to finish spawning, it can be pushed around, and the easiest way to push it is with a stake. All you need to have is 3 stakes, 2 hover stones, and either the infinity wing or even a normal wing will work. First, jump off a high enough area to enter bullet time. Then shoot 2 hover stones, but don't exit bullet time until they finish spawning in. Now to test that you did this correctly, use a stake and see if you can't push them around. Now take the 2 hover stones and connect them at their corners. Then we're going to want to create this shape with our 3 stakes. Attach a sled to the middle of the 2 hover stones, and then attach the wing to the top of the sled. To take off, all you need to do is to place the 2 bottom stakes between the hover stones and push forward on the D-pad. It's best to take off from a high ground, and flight can be a little janky at first, but just move the stakes up and down until you find a sweet spot. Well, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank my channel members, Kelcon, Way of Flowing Time, Happy Rocks, Keymoon, Martin LOL, Mort, Oscar, Ryan, Softbread, Generic NPC, Zach, Hanako, Jason, Gaming with Sarcasm, Petite Frappo, Chanel, Kiki Cat, Jeremy Spawns, Evo Pier, Dasuki, Intense Hamster, Small Person, Cat Fright, Naz, CTV, D5 for Bees, Crescendo, Suishi, Five Mats Music, Dance France, Trevor, and Jane Keto. Anyways, thanks for watching.